That's the shortest one, 8 seconds. It was a butt reboot. I sat on the activator by mistake.
We finally learn how Tahani died, and will the group agree with Michael's plans? Let's break down this week's episode of The Good Place right here on What Happened. What's going on, you lovely people? Lisa here, and thanks for joining me for another recap. Now, this week's Good Place is all about Team Cockroach. Yeah, basically Michael calls the group cockroaches, and it just sticks. So we left off last episode with Michael proposing to Eleanor, Tahani, Jason, and Chidi that they team up with him so he doesn't get ratted out to his boss Sean by pesky Vicky. So will the quartet agree? Let's find out. After a million reboots last episode, okay, so they've actually been rebooted a total of 802 times, with the longest lasting 11 months, the shortest being like 8 seconds because Michael sat on the button. Anyway, so after all those reboots, at this moment in time, they're about a week into the latest reboot, and that's when Michael decides to propose this deal. Michael essentially tells the group that it's the only option they have, otherwise Sean will eventually find out that, you know, things have gone wrong because Vicky will rat Michael out, and then the humans, yeah, they'll literally be in hot water this time, or neck deep in scorpions, or something like that. AKA, they'll be living eternity in real torture, and I'm sorry, I would not want that. I would be okay with being rebooted a million times in this scenario if I did not have to sit in hot water, get pulled apart, I don't know, an eternity of scorpions. That sounds pretty damn awful. Eleanor is still convinced that Michael is trying to trick them, so she's not really on board, and the group decide they need to ask more questions to find out if Michael's lying or not. And that's when they find out just how many times they've been rebooted and all that stuff. Janet also reveals that every time a Janet gets rebooted, their social awareness and abilities increase. So after 802 reboots, Janet is basically the best Janet there is. It's also revealed that she is indeed a good place Janet that Michael stole to try to pass off his ruse. Another thing we learn is that the medium place is in fact real and not one of Michael's schemes, and Michael looks like them because everyone in the Bad Place Bureau of Human Affairs gets a human body so they can, you know, feel how to best torture humans. As Michael continues to try to get the group on board, he says that they're running out of time because Vicky plans to have Michael reboot everything in 30 minutes and then she's taking over. So Michael's plan is essentially to reboot everything but the humans, and then the group's gonna pretend like they've been rebooted and are falling for Vicky's torture. Meanwhile, during their free time, they're going to be allowed to do whatever they want, like continue, you know, learning how to be better people from Chidi. When Eleanor still isn't convinced there's a good reason to help Michael, he throws in that he can actually help them get into the good place, and not just like the good place we've been hearing about, but like the real good place. Now he says it's complicated and something that will take a while and he's gonna have to do it in secret, but he can get them there, and even he might actually be able to get in the good place as well if he pretends that he's changed and all this kind of stuff. Chidi then proposes a really good question though. He asks, even if they let them in, are they gonna be able to stay, because on Earth they weren't even good enough to get in the first place. And also, Eleanor, she still thinks everything is a trap. At this point, since they're only a week into their latest reboot, Tahani hasn't figured out she's a bad person yet, so she keeps complaining to Michael so much about how she doesn't deserve to be there in this bad place with all these other people. How could she be in the same place as Jason? And that's when Michael informs her that she did all her good deeds for the fame and to outshine her sister, not for good. And then he decides to show her how she died. She was invited to do an interview for a magazine cover that she was on, but finds out that her sister has actually turned it down first, so she's the second choice. The host also just keeps asking Tahani questions about her sister, and you know, talking about how her sister's being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame already. Tahani then sneaks into her sister's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony dressed as a waiter because she wasn't invited, and her sister just continues to be a jerk to her. So Tahani gets set off and she goes over to try to pull down the statue of her sister, and it ends up falling on her and killing her. Yeah, ouch, right? Tahani is now on board with Michael's plan because she desperately needs to now get in the good place. And now Eleanor is the only one that is holding out. She ends up saying she needs a minute alone to think about everything, but instead she's kind of got another plan. She goes off and asks Janet to fill a train with cocaine for her because she's going back to Mindy and the medium place. As she tries to sneak out, Chidi stops her and they have kind of a little squabble, but Eleanor tells him they've only known each other for a week. She doesn't owe him anything. Chidi, instead of continuing to fight with her, just tells her good luck and walks off. Whatever Chidi has said earlier in this little bit of conversation has stuck with Eleanor though, so instead of going to the medium place, she ends up going to ask Michael more questions. She asks how many times Chidi has helped her and if she ever got better on her own. He tells her that she's never had to do it on her own because she always ends up finding Chidi and Chidi always helps her. Eleanor then goes back to the group and says that even though Michael's basically a huge ass liar, they need to help him. So Eleanor tells Michael they'll do this plan on one condition. He has to take the good people lessons from Chidi as well. They all need to become better people. Michael immediately says no, but then Eleanor turns the tables on him and blackmails him and says they all need to improve, and the second that he betrays them, she's going to Vicky to spill the beans, and of course Michael does not want that to happen. So Michael joins Team Cockroach, and we see him and Eleanor later walking through the town like it's orientation day again, like they've been rebooted. And Vicky has taken over and is of course wearing this best person sash and driving everyone crazy. So the whole city has been rebooted, but these people actually have not been. It's now back to like froyo and cake places. Now Michael is asked to be assigned to keeping surveillance on the humans so he'll be able to easily go to their lessons and no one will suspect anything. Michael then meets with the four and informs them what's going to be happening at the welcome party. Jason then asks Janet if she's going to rat them out, which is a very good question from Jason, surprisingly. And Janet says she's not allowed to lie. But then again, her purpose is to make humans happy, and since they're the only humans around, she is totally on board for whatever kind of mischievous schemes they have up their sleeves. We end the episode with Eleanor saying the bad place is about to be outsmarted. Okay, so since there weren't any real reboots in this episode, it felt way slower than the last episode. But that episode also had like a million reboots, so I guess I should be careful what I wish for, right? It was still a really good episode though, and I'm totally glad we finally got to see what ridiculous way Tahani died. Like the other three totally had ridiculous, far out, like, I don't know how people thought of them deaths, so this one kind of fit right in. Now I'm just curious how long Team Cockroach can kind of keep up their acting and this deal with Michael. Jason's pretty dumb, so I feel like he could totally screw it up in a matter of seconds. And if it does work, how long are they going to keep the ruse going before, like, Michael decides, okay, maybe we should go to the good place now, because he could just keep it going forever. Alright, so that wraps up this week's episode of The Good Place. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments about it, your best moments, your worst moments. You know, are you with Team Cockroach's plan? Is it going to work? What do you think is going to happen next? Let me know, then you can click over here for some more TV recaps, and if you like what you see, feel free to hit that thumbs up and subscribe, because I'll basically be here all the time talking about my favorite TV shows and movies. Thanks again for hanging out with me, everyone.